was the one that was right, so I'm claiming that was right. We make one forecast, we acknowledge what is going on, and then we'll put another forecast out. That's the way I like to do things. I don't like flipping and flopping around with models. Besides, if you've been watching this is making quite a little comeback. The GFS, not as generous, but still shows that we have an event near. This would be no big deal in the middle of winter, but let's remember, we're not to December 1st, and the implication of accumulating snow in New York the second time in the month of November, we're making the first time since 1938, incidentally. We did have a monster hurricane up the East Coast in 1938. Now, as part of the things I'd love to do, I'd love to show you things that other people aren't showing you. Here is the Korean model for the middle of December, forecasting, as you can see, a trough near the eastern seaboard, trough into Europe, trough in China, and you see this is a kind of pattern, boy, where you got to look for stormy and cold here, because this ridge is going to try to supply cold air, and this trough in Pacific Northeast of Hawaii allows short waves to come through, and they amplify toward the eastern seaboard. For the last week of the month, the last 10 days of the month, look at that. You know what? If you don't get a widespread white Christmas, more than 50% of the country covered with snow at Christmas, boy, out of that pattern, that would very much surprise me. Of course, in 2010, I made that forecast for 50% coverage on the 26th in my previous life, and we had 50.3. And if we waited a couple more days later after that blizzard in New York, it would have gone up close to 60%. But that's a great pattern. For those of you who love the weather getting cold around the holiday and things like that, that's just beautiful. And then we go to early January. It's fascinating, as this would be really pushing a lot of cold into the United States, but there'd be a southeastern ridge to try to resist. You know what's interesting about this? It shows you the effects of what would have been an El Nino type situation, and it goes to the cold PDO type situation. Now this is a much colder pattern for the country than last year. You say, oh, Joe, we had the trough in Alaska. You're correct, but remember we had that big ridge that, let me get my coloring book on over here, a big ridge that extended through and up into the United States. Remember how warm it was at 400, and it bundled all the cold air back here. That's not saying that can't happen, but right now this would really be a heck of a pattern too. We have a 20 to 30 day period, if this model is right, where there is going to be a lot of fun and games, a lot of challenges, and everything else. And you don't really need me to tell you that, but you can look yourself. And of course, the question is this right? I think we're going toward it. Okay, we'll see how those European weeklies look tonight, but the Korean looks a lot the way the European was going, and it's been a pretty reliable model. Hasn't done too bad. If we look at the month of November, it's been quite cold over the east. There's a little tongue of warmth up there, up in the north. I'm not happy with up in the western lakes that sort of breaks the connection of cold that I had forecasted from western Canada into the east. And it's interesting, but that may get cleaned out the next 3-4 days before the